Every day without self-control is a day we hand victory to weakness. That was Marcus Aurelius, my friends, and it hits harder when you realize it's not just about you, it's about them too. Every single day they spend without you, they think they're winning, but what they're really doing is losing a battle they don't even know they're in. That's the truth most people don't want to face. Folks, the biggest lie they sell you is this: when someone walks away, they walk into freedom. No. When someone walks away, they walk into a battlefield. And time. Time is the only general in that field. So here's the hook. Lean in, because I don't want you to miss this. You don't need to chase, you don't need to beg, and you don't need to prove yourself. The one thing you need is silence. The one ally you need is time. Every day that passes, every sunrise they face without you, is another fight they're losing while pretending they're fine. And trust me, my friends, pretending can only last so long before reality cuts through. Hey folks, imagine this. You're at a party. Music is blasting, people are laughing, lights are flashing. But suddenly, in the middle of all that noise, the DJ cuts the music. Silence. Everyone feels it. That's what your absence is like. They might be surrounded by people, surrounded by noise, but without you, there's a silence inside them they can't escape. And here's the kicker. They'll laugh, they'll smile, they'll post on social media. But silence doesn't care about their performance. Silence follows them home. Now, here's the lie you've been told. When they leave, they're happier. That somehow they've upgraded, leveled up, found a better life. That's the illusion pride sells them. It's like a gambler who just lost big and walks away from the table bragging, "I didn't want that jackpot anyway." My friends, that's not confidence, that's cover-up. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." They left because they craved something else. But the emptiness they now face makes them poorer than they ever expected. And let me break this even harder. Every day without you is a day of small deaths for them. It doesn't hit all at once. It's a slow burn. First, it's just a memory of your laugh. Then it's the chair across from them at dinner that feels too empty. Then it's the message they almost send, but delete. Those are losses. Tiny ones, but they add up. They thought they were free, but really they're carrying shackles made of regret, and every tick of the clock makes them heavier. Picture this. Have you ever tried to hold a beach ball underwater? At first you think you can keep it down. You press harder, push deeper, but eventually the pressure wins. That ball shoots up, exploding through the surface. That's their denial right now. They can keep smiling, keep pretending, but sooner or later the truth comes up. The truth that life without you isn't a victory, it's a void. Now, let me talk to you directly, my friends. I know you've had those moments, lying awake, wondering if they even think about you, if they regret walking away. The temptation is to reach out, to text, to explain your worth. But listen carefully. You don't need to prove what time will prove for you. You don't need to fight battles that silence is already winning on your behalf. The longer they go without you, the more they feel the weight of what they lost. That's not revenge, that's reality. Marcus Aurelius also said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Don't chase, don't beg, don't try to show them what they lost. Just live, just rise, just become so strong, so grounded, so radiant that their memory of you becomes the most painful mirror they'll ever face." And before we dive into the stages of their downfall, let's lock this in together. Write these words in the comments right now. I choose silence. Say it, show it, believe it. It's not just words, it's a standard. And if this message is hitting home, folks, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and stay with me, because what's coming next? Oh, they never see it coming. Number 1, the first illusion of freedom. We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality. That's Seneca, my friends, and it sets the tone for this first stage. Because when they walk away, when they turn their back on you, they think they're walking into freedom. They imagine a life without you will be lighter, easier, filled with endless opportunities. But that imagination is exactly what will betray them. At first, they strut away with that false confidence. You've seen it before, the smile that looks a little too wide, the laugh that sounds just a little too forced. They post pictures online, out with friends, arms thrown around new people, drinks in hand. They tell themselves and everyone else, "I'm fine. This is what I needed." It's like someone jumping out of a plane without checking if the parachute is strapped on. They feel the rush, they feel the thrill, but the ground is still waiting. Imagine this. They walk out of your life thinking they've just escaped a storm. They believe they're stepping into sunshine, a brand new season. But what they don't realize is that the real storm hasn't even begun, because the storm isn't outside, it's inside. The silence you leave behind is the thunder, and the absence of your presence is the lightning that keeps striking when they least expect it. They tell themselves lies to calm the fear. "I didn't need them. I'll find better. I'll be happier." But lies, my friends, have a short shelf life. The truth always spoils them. And the truth is this: freedom without meaning is just emptiness wearing a mask. They might celebrate for a while, but deep down, in the cracks of their pride, a whisper begins. What if I was wrong? Have you ever noticed how people brag the loudest when they're the most uncertain? That's what they do. They'll talk about how relieved they are, how the relationship was too much, how they feel lighter now. But pay attention, the more they say it, the more they're trying to convince themselves. Because real peace doesn't need an audience, it doesn't need validation. The Stoics remind us that truth stands on its own, while lies lean on constant reassurance. But here's the danger: they don't recognize it yet. Pride is their armor, and pride is heavy. They carry it like a shield, blocking every sign that they've lost something real. Yet even the strongest arms get tired of carrying a shield that doesn't protect them from what's inside, because the enemy isn't you, it's their own mind. Let me paint it even clearer. Imagine they've been drinking salty water thinking it's quenching their thirst. For a moment it feels refreshing, but soon their lips crack, their throat burns, and their body craves real water. That's what life without you is. Salty water disguised as freedom. It promises relief, but delivers emptiness. And this is where the fear creeps in, slowly, silently. What if they can't replace you? What if the connection they had with you isn't something they'll ever find again? What if walking away wasn't liberation, but a self-inflicted wound? They won't say it out loud, not yet. Their ego won't allow it. But late at night, when the laughter has faded and the phone has stopped buzzing, that question scratches at their mind. Did I just lose the best thing I ever had? The lie they cling to is that they can always come back, that you'll always be there waiting, ready to forgive, ready to rebuild. That's the fantasy that keeps them calm in the early days. But what they don't realize is that silence is eroding that fantasy. Every day without you, every sunrise that passes, weakens their illusion. And soon they'll wake up and discover that the bridge they burned doesn't lead back. It leads nowhere. And let's be honest, folks, this stage is hard for you too, because you might look at them smiling, laughing, living as if you never mattered, and you'll wonder, do they miss me at all? Was I that easy to forget? But here's the truth you must hold on to. Their performance isn't reality. You're seeing the mask, not the face. You're seeing the distraction, not the silence that haunts them after the curtain falls. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Remember that. Their thoughts are not happy, they're heavy. They may dress them up, but the quality of what they carry inside is already decaying. They're not free, they're in chains of their own making, and those chains get tighter the longer they go without you. Yes, it's difficult. It's difficult for you to resist the urge to break the silence, to check in, to see if they feel it too. It's difficult not to explain yourself, not to shout your worth, not to remind them of everything they're losing. But understand this, the moment you do that, you become their escape route. You rescue them from the silence that was about to break them. Don't hand them that relief. Don't undo the work time is doing on your behalf. So hold firm. Detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's refusing to fight battles that don't belong to you. It's trusting that time is exposing the truth without you lifting a finger. Because every day they go without you is another day their illusion cracks, another day they lose ground in a battle they thought they'd already won. And when you understand this, when you really embrace it, you don't sit in fear, you sit in strength. You realize you don't have to run after anyone because your presence was never the problem, it was always their perception. And perceptions fade, but reality stays. So let's end this part with a truth you can carry, my friends. Write this in the comments, show it to yourself, show it to the world around you. I am the silence they cannot escape, because that's exactly what you are. A silence louder than their noise, a presence stronger than their distractions. Stay with me, because the next stage is where things start shifting even deeper. The illusion starts to crumble, and the silence they thought they wanted begins to haunt them. And when that happens, the battle they thought they were winning turns into the war they never prepared for. Number 2, the echo of absence. Silence is sometimes the most powerful scream. My friends, that quote isn't just poetic, it's the truth of this stage. Because after the illusion of freedom begins to fade, what creeps in next isn't loud, dramatic, or obvious. It's subtle, it's quiet, it's the echo of your absence. And it's in this stage that every day without you begins to sound less like liberation and more like a haunting they can't escape. At first they don't notice it. They move through their day the way they always did, convinced they're still fine. But then it happens, small, almost invisible moments that hit harder than they expect. They sit down at their favorite restaurant and suddenly there's a chair across from them that feels too empty. They hear a joke and instinctively think, I have to tell them this. But then they remember, they can't. That instant sting. That's the echo of your absence. It's not a punch in the face. It's more like a drop of water on stone. One drop doesn't do anything. 10 drops don't matter. But over time, drop after drop, the stone begins to wear down. That's how your absence works. It doesn't hit them all at once. It chips away slowly, quietly, invisibly, until one day they realize the weight pressing on their chest isn't going away. And let me tell you something, it terrifies them. They won't admit it, not yet, but the fear is there. They ask themselves questions they can't answer. Why do I feel this way? Why does this silence feel heavier than noise? Why does the world feel dimmer without them in it? These questions creep in at night, in the quiet moments when distractions fade. That's when they realize that silence isn't empty, it's full of reminders. Think about it like this. Imagine walking into a room after the music stops. At first, you think it's peaceful. But the longer you sit there, the more the silence grows, the louder it becomes, until it feels almost unbearable. That's what's happening to them now. At first, they told themselves the silence was freedom, but now the silence is screaming, and the sound it makes is your absence echoing in their mind. The lies they told themselves in stage 1 start to crumble. They can't keep saying, I don't miss them, I'm fine, because every little trigger contradicts it. The song that takes them back, the smell of a place you both went to, the way someone laughs in a way that almost but not quite reminds them of you. These are the shadows your absence casts, and they follow them everywhere. And let's break another lie. They thought they could replace you easily. They thought new people, new experiences, new connections would fill the gap. But here's the truth. Surface-level distractions can't replace depth. Casual conversations can't replace connection. Temporary smiles can't replace the warmth of someone who actually knows them. And every time they feel that gap, the echo grows louder. Now, folks, I know what you're thinking. If they're feeling this, why don't they just come back? And here's where the ego steps in. Their pride won't let them admit it. They tell themselves it's just a passing thought, just nostalgia, just weakness. They fight it, they suppress it, they push it down. But you and I both know what happens when you push something down for too long. It only comes back stronger, like trying to hold that beach ball under the water. You can do it for a while, but eventually it shoots up with force you can't control. That's what's coming. This stage is the beginning of that internal battle, the ego versus the heart. The ego says, don't admit it, you're fine without them. But the heart whispers, you miss them, and you can't replace what you lost. And the longer the silence stretches, the louder the heart becomes. Here's where the Stoic mindset gives you power. Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Your silence is your reaction. Your stillness is your power. While they wrestle with echoes, you remain unmoved. And that contrast eats at them, because the more they look for signs of you breaking, the more your silence reminds them, you're not chasing, you're not waiting, you're not there. Every day without you is another day those echoes multiply. They might laugh with others, but the laughter feels thin. They might talk with someone new, but the conversation feels forced. They might fill their calendar, but their soul feels empty. And deep down, the echo keeps asking, what if I threw away something irreplaceable? And let me make this clear, my friends. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about manipulation. This is about reality doing its work. When you step back, when you detach, you give time permission to show them what you already knew. Your presence mattered more than their pride will ever admit. So while they battle echoes, what do? You rise, you live, you thrive. You become the version of yourself that doesn't just exist without them. You shine without them. And every step you take forward makes the echo louder for them, because now they're not just missing who you were, they're missing who you're becoming. Let's lock this in right now. Type these words in the comments. My silence echoes louder than their noise. Write it, believe it, show it, because it's true. And the more you stand firm, the more their own silence becomes unbearable. Stay with me, because the next stage, that's when the comparisons begin. That's when they stop just hearing echoes and start realizing life without you isn't as great as they thought. And that, my friends, is where their battle turns into a defeat they can't deny. Number 3, the weight of comparison. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. That's Epictetus, and it hits like a hammer here. Because when they left you, my friends, they thought they were walking into a world of more excitement, more freedom, more attention, more love. But here's the truth, the human heart is greedy when it's empty. And every new thing they try to stuff inside only reminds them of the one thing they can't replace: you. At this stage, something shifts. The initial illusion has cracked. The echo of absence has started haunting them, and now comparison steps in. They begin to measure everything and everyone against the standard you once set, and the weight of that comparison crushes them a little more each day. Think of it like this. Imagine they left a warm, steady fire because they were tempted by neon lights flashing outside. At first, the lights looked exciting, dazzling, full of promise. But then, standing under them, they realize those lights don't warm you, they don't comfort you, they don't make you feel safe. They only blind you for a moment before fading back into darkness. And in that darkness, what do they remember? The fire, the glow, the presence they once had with you. That's a comparison at work. They meet new people. They sit across new faces, share new conversations, and for a while, they tell themselves it's fresh, it's better, it's what they wanted. But then, little cracks appear. They notice how shallow the laughter feels, how forced the connection is, how quickly the conversation dies when the novelty wears off. That's when the whisper comes. It wasn't like this before. And make no mistake, they'll fight it. Their pride will tell them, no, don't admit it. This is good. This is what you wanted. But pride can't erase memories. Pride can't erase the way you understood them without words, the way your presence felt like home, the way your silence together was more comfortable than the chatter they now drown in. And each day, those comparisons dig deeper. Here's the funny thing, folks. People don't realize how powerful habits are until they're gone. You were a habit for them, a rhythm, a melody playing in the background of their life. Now the music has stopped, and everything else feels off-key. And when someone new enters, when they try to make a replacement, their heart does what hearts always do. It compares, not intentionally, but instinctively. That's when the fear rises. They start to wonder, what if I never feel that again? What if I threw away something that only comes once in a lifetime? What if every comparison only reminds me of what I lost? Those questions aren't surface thoughts. They're deep, gnawing doubts. And doubts, my friends, are powerful. Doubts are the termites that eat away at the wooden frame of their false confidence. Let's call it out. The biggest lie they told themselves was, I can find better. That's the fuel of arrogance, the fantasy of the ungrateful. But reality doesn't play along. Because connection, true connection, isn't something you just stumble on every Friday night. It's rare, it's sacred, it's built through time, trust and presence, and the more they search for it elsewhere, the more they realize it's not showing up. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Their impediment now is regret." And every failed comparison, every empty conversation, every joy that feels incomplete, that's the way forward for them, into the realization that their so-called freedom is nothing but a cage without you in it. And here's where it gets worse for them, because while they're busy comparing, you're not. While they're stuck measuring the new against the old, you're moving forward. You're not waiting, you're not clinging, you're building. And that right there is the weight they can't carry. Because now, it's not just about missing what they had. It's about seeing you become someone they'll never have access to again. Imagine them scrolling through their phone, looking at you, seeing your glow, your growth, your peace, and then looking back at the empty faces around them. That contrast, that's unbearable. It's like holding gold once and then being forced to trade it for pebbles. No matter how many pebbles they collect, they'll never feel like they're holding treasure again. So what do you do during this stage? Nothing, absolutely nothing. Let time and silence keep playing their part. You don't need to show them, you don't need to prove anything. They're already proving it to themselves every time they compare what they have now to what they had with you. And I want you to hear this. You don't lose in this stage. They do. Because while they're haunted by comparisons, you're becoming incomparable. So let's cement this with an affirmation, my friends. Type it in the comments, show it to yourself, show it to the world. I am the standard they cannot replace, because that's the truth. You are the fire that neon lights can never outshine, the presence that shallow noise can never replace, the gold that pebbles can never equal. Stay with me, because the next stage, it's even harder for them. That's when their pride begins to break. That's when their ego, the very thing they thought would protect them, becomes the prison that traps them. And trust me, you don't want to miss that. Number 4, the ego's defense cracks. He who indulges empty fears earns himself real fears. That's Seneca, and it's the perfect doorway into this stage, because, my friends, this is where their mask starts to slip. they've been carrying themselves with pride, with confidence, with that smug illusion that leaving you was the smartest move they ever made. But pride is heavy, and ego is fragile. And when the weight of silence collides with the echoes of your absence, the cracks begin to show. At first, they fight back. Their mind tells them, no, I made the right choice. I don't need them. I'm fine. And so they double down. They talk louder, laugh harder, post more pictures, surround themselves with more distractions. It's almost comical if you think about it. It's like patching a sinking ship with duct tape. You can cover the holes for a while, but the water keeps rising. And what is that water? It's the truth. The truth that the freedom they thought they won feels more like exile. The truth that the relief they bragged about was nothing more than denial in disguise. The truth that deep down, no amount of ego can protect them from the pain of losing someone who actually mattered. Let me paint it with a metaphor. Picture a soldier who goes into battle wearing armor made of glass. From a distance it shines, it glitters, it looks strong. But the moment arrows start flying, the cracks appear, and soon the armor shatters under the pressure. That's their ego right now. It looked solid when they left, but time has been firing arrows every day, memories, comparisons, silence, and now that glass is beginning to splinter. And here's the part they don't want anyone to see. They start asking themselves questions in the quiet moments. Why do I still think about them? Why does this silence feel so heavy? Why do these new connections feel shallow? These questions are daggers aimed right at the heart of their ego, and the more they ask them, the more their pride bleeds. They'll try to cover it up. Maybe they'll blame you. Maybe they'll nitpick your flaws, exaggerate the bad times, tell themselves and others, I left because they weren't good enough. But listen carefully. That's not clarity. That's desperation. It's easier to shift blame than to admit weakness. But no amount of excuses can silence the truth that keeps pressing in. They walked away from something real. Marcus Aurelius once said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Think about that. Every excuse they invent, every story they tell themselves to soothe their pride only makes the lie heavier to carry, and lies always collapse under their own weight. So what makes this stage so painful for them? It's the battle between their ego and their heart. The ego screams, don't admit it, don't give in, don't regret. But the heart whispers, you miss them, you need them, you were wrong. And here's the thing. Whispers outlast screams. Screams are loud, but short-lived. Whispers are quiet, but they echo forever. And the longer they fight, the louder that whisper becomes. They start to notice it in little ways. Maybe when they're celebrating something, but the victory feels empty because they can't share it with you. Maybe when they're surrounded by people, but feel more alone than ever. Maybe when they wake up and instinctively reach for their phone, only to realize there's no message from you. Each moment chips away at the armor they've been hiding behind. And here's where you hold the power, my friends, because your silence isn't just absence, it's pressure. Every day you don't reach out, every moment you don't break, is another arrow hitting that glass armor. You're not fighting them, you're not chasing them, you're not even trying, but the strength of your detachment is forcing them to face a truth they can no longer run from. Their ego can't save them. Why is this so difficult for them? Because ego hates humility, ego despises surrender, ego clings to control even when it's losing the battle, so they'll resist as long as they can. They'll keep posting, keep smiling, keep pretending, but inside, they're exhausted. Because pretending to be unaffected is one of the heaviest performances a human being can carry. And no one can carry it forever. This is the stage where the cracks become visible. Not to you, you won't see it yet. Not to their friends, they'll still put on a good show. But inside, in their private thoughts, in the silence they can't escape, the armor is breaking, and they know it. And the fear that creeps in now isn't just about missing you, it's about losing control. Because once their ego cracks, they know the heart will take over. And that, my friends, is exactly where the Stoic path gives you peace. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to fight, argue, or prove. You just let them crumble under the weight of their own pride, because every day without you, their heart grows louder, their ego grows weaker, and the cracks grow wider. So let's anchor this moment together. Write this in the comments, show it to yourself, show it to the world. Their ego cracks, my silence stands. That's your truth, that's your strength. And the longer you hold steady, the more they'll realize their pride was nothing but glass, and your silence was the hammer. Stay with me, because the next stage is where time itself flips sides. They thought time would heal them, but instead, time turns into their worst enemy. And that's when the real suffering begins. Number 5. Time turns against them. Time discovers truth. That's Seneca again, my friends, and it slices right through this stage. Because time, the very thing they thought would be their healer, their savior, their excuse, now becomes their greatest enemy. They believed that days turning into weeks and weeks turning into months would make their decision easier. They believed that the pain would fade, that the silence would lose its weight. But the opposite is happening. Time isn't healing them, it's punishing them. At first, they reassured themselves, just give it time, I'll forget, I'll move on, I'll be fine. That's the story they told themselves in the beginning, but stories only work for so long before reality cuts through. And reality is this: every sunrise without you is another reminder that they are not better off. Every sunset without you is another weight pressing on their chest. They're not moving on, they're stuck, they're not healing, they're unraveling. Picture a person stuck on a treadmill. They're running, sweating, trying to convince themselves they're getting somewhere, but deep down they know they're in the exact same spot. That's what their life feels like now. Time is moving, but they're not. The days pass, but they feel no progress. And each day that goes by only reinforces the truth. Their so-called freedom has led them nowhere. And here's the irony: they thought time would work in their favor. They thought, if I just distract myself long enough, the memories will fade, the feelings will die. But time doesn't erase real connection. Time sharpens it. Time takes what's shallow and makes it disappear, but it takes what's deep and makes it echo louder. That's why the longer they go without you, the more those echoes haunt them. They wake up in the morning and their phone is silent. No message, no good morning. No one who knows their rhythms, their moods, their quirks. They brush it off, but then it hits them again at lunch, when they're sitting across from someone new and realizing the conversation feels flat. It hits them again at night when the noise of the day fades and they're left staring at the ceiling, wondering why their chest feels hollow. And the answer keeps showing up, over and over again. It's you. Marcus Aurelius said, "The passing minute is every man's equal possession, but what we do with it makes us unequal." Think about that. Every minute that passes now is a loss for them and a gain for you. Because while they're stuck battling regret, you're using time to grow. While they're sinking in silence, you're rising in strength. Time is the same for both of you, but it's working in opposite directions. For you, it's building. For them, it's breaking. And what's worse, they start realizing it. They start to feel that their so-called progress is an illusion, that the longer they go without you, the further away they are from the life they thought they were creating. The confidence they once carried starts to rot from the inside out. Their ego keeps telling them, "Don't admit it, you'll get over this." But their heart knows the truth. They're not getting over it. They're sinking into it. This is when time becomes cruel, because the questions they once avoided now hit them harder each day. Did I throw away something irreplaceable? Did I make the biggest mistake of my life? Is it too late to fix it? Those questions aren't fleeting anymore. They're constant. They hang over their head like a storm cloud, and no matter how many distractions they chase, they can't escape them. Think of it like being trapped in a cell where every wall has a clock ticking louder and louder. Every tick is a reminder. Every tock is a punishment. The very thing they thought would heal them is now the thing tormenting them. And here's the beauty of Stoicism. You don't need to interfere. You don't need to chase, beg, or even remind them of what they lost. Time is already doing the work for you. Your silence is the sharp edge, but time is the pressure that drives it deeper. And every day they spend without you, that blade cuts further into their pride. And let me tell you this, it's terrifying for them. Because once they realize time isn't their ally anymore, the fear of permanence sets in. The fear that this regret won't fade. The fear that they waited too long. The fear that while they're stuck in the past, you've already moved into a future that doesn't include them. That's when desperation begins to creep in. They might start looking for signs, checking your social media more often, asking mutual friends about you, maybe even considering reaching out. But here's the catch, they hesitate, because reaching out means admitting defeat, and their ego, even cracked, will fight that to the very last moment. So they sit there in torment, in silence, while time keeps punishing them. So, what's your role here? To stand firm, to remember what Epictetus said, no great thing is created suddenly. Their downfall isn't sudden, it's slow, deliberate, unavoidable, and your strength is simply to let it happen, to keep living, keep rising, keep letting time do its work. So let's seal this moment with an affirmation, my friends. Type it in the comments right now. Time is my ally, not theirs, because that's the truth. Time builds you while it breaks them, and the longer it goes on, the heavier their regret becomes. Stay with me, because the next stage is brutal for them. That's when they have to watch you thrive without them. And trust me, that's silent punishment. That's the pain they'll never recover from. Number 6. The silent punishment, watching you thrive without them. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. That's Marcus Aurelius, my friends, and this stage proves it more than any other. Because at this point, the battle is no longer about what they think of you, it's about what they see. And what they see is something they never expected. You're not broken, you're not waiting, you're not begging, you're thriving. And that realization is the silent punishment they never prepared for. At first, they told themselves stories. They're hurting just like me. They're pretending. They're waiting for me to come back. That's the fantasy they carried, the safety net for their ego. They assumed you would always be there, orbiting their world, longing for their return. But then time reveals the truth. They look at you, and instead of seeing someone crushed, they see someone rising. Instead of weakness, they see strength. Instead of silence filled with pain, they see silence filled with peace. And that's when the knife twists. Picture this, someone who thought they could walk away from a garden and return to it whenever they pleased. But when they come back, they don't find a wilted, neglected space. They find a blooming paradise, more radiant than before, but now surrounded by gates they no longer have the key to. That's what it feels like when they watch you thrive without them. It's not just painful, it's humiliating. And here's where it gets interesting. They start to doubt their own judgment. How could I think walking away was smart? How could I believe they needed me? How could I underestimate them so badly? These questions aren't just painful, they're shattering, because in their mind, you were supposed to fall apart. That was the script their ego wrote. But instead, you flipped the script completely. You didn't just survive, you flourished. Seneca once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." And that's exactly what happened to you. Their absence didn't destroy you, it forged you. The silence they thought would weaken you became the soil where your strength grew. The pain they thought would chain you became the fire that refined you. And now, standing in your strength, you are a living reminder of everything they lost. But let's be clear, the punishment isn't about revenge. It's not about making them jealous. It's not about proving anything. It's simply about you living, you being the best version of yourself, you choosing peace over bitterness, growth over despair. And that choice, the one you made quietly, without needing applause, is the punishment that cuts them deeper than anger ever could. Because here's the truth. Anger fades, bitterness burns out, but thriving is eternal, thriving is undeniable, thriving is the mirror they can't escape, the one that reflects their mistake back at them every single day. And the more you rise, the smaller they feel, and oh, how they hate it. They scroll through their feed, searching for signs of your pain, but instead they see your glow. They look for cracks in your armor, but instead they see resilience. They hope for proof that you're waiting for them, but instead they find proof that you've moved forward. That's the silent punishment. Not your words, not your anger, just your existence. Better, brighter, bolder than before. This is when desperation sinks its claws into them. They begin to panic. They wonder if they've lost their chance forever. They wonder if reaching out will be met, not with anger, but with something far worse. Indifference. Because anger still means you care, but indifference means they don't matter anymore, and that's the one truth they can't handle. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." And right now their greatest poverty is want. They want your presence. They want your forgiveness. They want to know they still matter, but they don't. And every day you live without them, every smile you share with the world, every victory you achieve drives that truth deeper into their chest. And here's the gift Stoicism gives you. You don't have to rub it in. You don't have to flaunt or force it. You simply have to live. And that life, peaceful, purposeful, detached, is the loudest statement you could ever make. Because the greatest punishment isn't you breaking, it's you building. It's not you crying, it's you glowing. It's not you clinging, it's you thriving. So let's end with this. Remember, you don't need revenge. You don't need to chase. You don't need to prove. Your silence, your growth, your peace, that's enough. That's everything. That's the punishment they'll feel for the rest of their life. Now it's your turn to lock this in. Write these words in the comments. Show them to yourself. Show them to the world. I thrive in silence. Say it. Believe it. Own it. And if this message hit you today, my friends, do me a favor. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because silence, time, and strength, those are the weapons of the Stoic. And trust me, what comes next in your life, that's the part they'll never see coming.